Hey, it's another one of those, so let's waste no time getting into it. This is from another war versus SC, and our starting spots in this one are 2, 5, 7, 8. We agree that with these spots, our lowest spot goes into cut, so to start, I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. Revise pulls out triple reds next to me, while SC already have a top 2 going. I need to use my mega here because if I get hit, SC just breaks away in top 2. I'm a little reckless with my mega here because Barney tells me he just has to tank the hit because he can't break the reds. So most likely he's dead anyway, and it allows for me to get closer to their top spots. Going out of my way to avoid Barney isn't really worth it because it doesn't really solve any problems here. The problems being that SC already have a top 2 going, and them having triple reds in 5th. Slowing down to hit Revise isn't really worth it either because he'll most likely just get a red off on Barney regardless, and me slowing down to hit someone behind me just benefits the SC runners in top 2. I get into 2nd and I'm surrounded by SC players with basically every top spot around me, so I'm trying really hard to stay alive here. In the Wiggler section, I go to the far left because I don't want to go through the opening in the middle where the Wigglers are close to each other. Sean could block it with backspam and there's not much space to work with there. And another reason for going left side here is because it's slightly laggier on my opponent's screen and they have a harder read on my actual position when I'm coming in from the far left. Sean is clearly trailing, so I still need to be careful. So for the same reason, I skip the left boost panel and drive wide onto the second one. If Sean blocks the first boost panel well, it's going to be hard for me to not lose time, whether or not I hit the banana. Had third place been right next to me in this situation, I would feel more pressured into having to drive fast to be able to maintain my spot. After the U-turn, I know that Sean still has another item left, so I get out of his line in order to avoid getting hit. He also knows that I don't have a red shell, so he could back anything and I wouldn't be able to punish him with a red shell. I keep spacing from Sean, expecting him to back something any second now. In moments like these, it's important to make sure you have enough space to be able to react to backspam. If I just keep going mindlessly and a fib pops up in front of me, I'll be left with next to no time to react to it. Sean finally backs something and I instantly react by using it to essentially double backspam the SC players behind me. They are ready for the fib because, well, Sean is calling it, but they probably aren't expecting me to backspam alongside with it that suddenly. If someone had a red behind me, I'm fairly sure they would have thrown this at me already, and if not, I'm fairly confident I could break it around the next set or so. Towards the end of the lap, it's common sense to go left path to avoid getting hit. Having triple greens, I decide to throw 2 of them forward so that I can keep one for protection if needed. It would be safer to just hold my greens to block backspam, such as bananas and greens, but this is a decent opportunity for me to try and hit them since my team is in bad spots. POW ends up happening, so I wouldn't be able to keep my items regardless, but it's still important to mention that I wouldn't always make the decision to just throw my greens in that situation. Realistically, this ended up working out better than it should have, but the idea with the greens is still pretty solid. Combined with the POW, it's not always easy to dodge greens coming up and bouncing around like this. At the Wiggler section, I try to put a Nana behind the leaf pile in case Edison tries to get a ground star. The second banana is placed early and wide as opposed to placing it right next to the Wiggler because I thought Edison might go out of his way early to avoid backspam. This kind of a decision is nothing more than a read or a prediction that ended up not working. After the Wigglers, Sanders says that Edison has no item behind me, so I know that I can safely back my item at him without risking him having a red shell to hit me with. With that in mind, I decide to put my Nana on the second boost panel with the goal of making him lose time, whether by hitting it or having to go out of his way. The goal of backspamming isn't always just to hit people, it's to make them lose time. Edison is in a situation where Sander is right behind him in third, so he might feel the need to try and go fast. I get blued with a pretty close pack, so in this moment I'm already preparing to bag for a potential dodge, depending on their spots. I think on other tracks or in another situation, I might not have dropped at all because I could get an item to hit or slow down some of the asset players with. But the ending area of Maple is so wide open that even if I slow down with triple shells or back a bomb, I think that the asset players would have a lot of room to avoid it. I communicate that I have eyes on 3 of the SC players, and that means that I'm watching the 3 of them to see if any of them go into any dodges at all, if any of my teammates are thinking about calling a cannon shock, or if SC end up getting shock and they're thinking about dodging in cannon. If I see SC players going into dodges, I'll try to let my team know as soon as possible. It's also worth noting that even if we had shock in this situation, I'm not even sure we would have used it in canon this lap, but this is still something that's important to do. If your team has shock and they're in a position where they might call shock soon, it's important to let your teammates know if the opponents around you are holding a dodge or if they're going into a dodge, so that your teammates can work around that. Going into lap 3 cannon, I get a mega and my only goal here is to hit and slow down the SC players behind me. My teammates are already in good spots and my biggest priority is to try and maintain that. If we get top 3, that's still a really good race even if I get 8th. Afterwards, I communicate that SC are in bottom 2 by a ton, and the reason I'm mentioning that is because it's important context to have if anyone gets shocked. If Ryan gets shocked for us, we know that we can shock without worrying about their bottom 2 catching up even if they dodge. If SC gets shocked, we know that they are very likely to shock around the remaining players up there. Afterwards, I communicate that we might be top 4 soon, and my goal here is to let my teammates know that without doing anything out of the ordinary, I should be getting into 4th or right behind 4th. If one of my teammates in 2nd or 3rd have a plan of trying to backspam something to hit the SC players in 4th and 5th, they might not decide to do it anymore once they hear that I'm coming up. Towards the end, I end up being right behind Sean, and I know that the only way I beat him without an item is if I go middle path and I get low tricks. I decide to play for top 4, so that's what I end up doing, and if I mess it up, I still get 5th or 6th at worst. So there isn't that much on the line, since we're already about to win the race by a lot.